Throughout this training video, I want to go through and show you how to complete a REIV, Exclusive Letting and Management Authority. But it's important to make sure that this is done correctly. And so to start off with, what I want to make sure is that it's valid and it's enforceable. So it's okay to have a document sitting inside of your file, inside of Property Media Tree, console, or even on your desktop, on your server, wherever it may be. But if it's not valid, therefore it's not enforceable. And there are certain elements to make this document valid and enforceable. So the first thing I want to look at is the ability for you to, one, represent the owner, the rental provider, and secondly, your ability to be able to then charge fees so that there's no dispute whatsoever. But thirdly, the next one is it's the enforceability and the ability for an agency to be able to assign this document to another entity. Now, I'll go through that clause in a second, but when we're looking at valuing a rent roll, when we're looking at the asset value, this is the primary document that we look for. And if this isn't right, it doesn't really matter what else is there. If the authority's not right, typically then the rental agreements won't be right. The condition reports won't be right. Any of the other documents won't be right. And there's a couple of reasons for that. So let's just start off with. So firstly, we're looking at the REIV documents. One of the things that I do see a lot is, and I don't work for the REIV and I'm not representing the REIV, but when I'm looking at officers and I'm trying to go in and analyse the way they operate with the authorities, what I often see is that an agency has gone in and created one copy like I've just done here. Now, what I've done is I've gone into an existing client and just redacted their information, hence the reasons why it's white here at the moment. So I've just gone through and copied that out. Whited that out, liquid papered that out. So what I see a lot of agents do is they'll get a copy like this, they'll blank it out, and then they just use the one version. So there is actually copyright restrictions down below here. And it says that, and so my suggestion is that if you continue to do that, probably suggest you would stop. So going into the VIC forms, what I would do is whenever I'm working in an office, I create a base template. Now all of this information in through to here, so the agent's details, the address, the ACN and the ABN, that can all be found, and it needs to link directly back through to the public agent register. And if I just do a search here now, I'm going to do this now. So public agent register, and we would search that, search public agent register, real estate agents, estate agents, public agent register. You would search this register and you would type the company in through to there. Now there's a couple that have come up that I've already looked at. So I would type in, for example, MAP Real Estate, and my company details would come up down below here, search, and the license details come up underneath here. So what you need to make sure is that you are using, so let's just use this one here, view the details. That is the company. That needs to be inside of here. And then you will have trading names underneath here. What you don't want to do is you don't want to have the company, and then if the trading name, for example, here I've got the company as MAP Real Estate Proprietary Limited, and then the trading name is MAP Real Estate. If my trading name was MAP Real Estate Proprietary Limited, then over here it needs to say agent MAP Real Estate Proprietary Limited, trading as MAP Real Estate Proprietary Limited, because that's what's on the license and that's what's registered. Don't just drop the Proprietary Limited, because that makes it invalid as well. So going back into the REI forms, create a template and pre-populate all this information so that it's already there, and don't save it, just leave it there. And then when you're going in, your team are going in and creating a new document, what they would do is they would go into the template, copy it, make the changes in the new document, not in the template, in the new document, and then you would save it in the property name, and then you go through and make your individual changes. Now let's just get into the actual authority. So what are we looking for? As I said, this one would normally have your agency company details in there and your address. Your ACN and ABN must be in there. This is a template, so the reasons why I was saying before with the template, I already put in brackets so that the person knows what they need to do. So, for example, insert full agent's name and qualification, and if they're a licensed estate agent. So, if it was me, for example, it would be Michael Furlong, Officer in Effective Control, licensed estate agent. That's what I'd be putting in through to here. So that's my agency, that's the name, and the fact that I'm a licensed estate agent. The company address, company ACN, company ABN, the company phone, and here I'd be putting my email address. Very rare does an agency have fax numbers anymore, so I just pop that as not applicable anymore. What I want to make sure here is this is really critical. So insert the registered owner's full name as per proof of ownership. Now, before you go in and you're creating an authority, you must get either a copy of the title or a copy of the council rates notice. Title is preferable, and you're putting in the details as per the registered owners inside of here. Now, council won't actually have the full name. What they'll have is an initial for, so to be M Furlong, not Michael Furlong, for example, in this one. So what you're looking for is you want to make sure that this document is made out to the registered owners. Don't make an assumption because you've been called in to, say, a married couple that both parties own the property. Don't make that assumption. You need to get a copy of the registered owner's details, and that needs to be entered in through to here. Their address. Now, if it is a business, then you would be putting in their ACN and their ABN. Where that would apply is if this was a superannuation fund. Now, if the property was owned by a superannuation fund, what I would do is I'd be putting in the superannuation fund company, the trustee, and I would also be writing in there the director or directors. So I'd be attentioning that in through to there. So you've got the company, the trustee, which is superannuation fund, and the directors, and I'll be putting that in through to there because that's technically who owns and who's representing the property. So what you want to do is you want to have the company and who the authorised officers are for that company. Okay, address, ACN, ABN, insert the person's phone number if they have, or a work number. Insert their mobile, insert registered owner's mobile phone number, insert the registered owner's email. Now, the reason why I've got here prefer private, not work email, and I ask this because you can take in the owner's instruction form other emails, but in this one, the reason for that is because a personal email will stay with that person a lot longer than a work email, particularly if they change jobs. So it might be a Gmail, it might be a Hotmail, it might be something like that. But you want to make sure you're getting their personal email, not their work email. Insert the full property address. Now, the full property address in this scenario would be as per the lot. Now, if it's a plan of subdivision, put it in there. Lot 405, in brackets, apartment 405 at whatever it is, street. Make sure you're putting in the state and also the postcode. Don't be lazy and just put in the street address and the street name. So put it in as Victoria and then the postcode. Exclusive authority and exclusive continuing authority. Now, with this is actually an exclusive letting and management. It's not an exclusive management authority. There is a thought that the authority is an exclusive management authority. It's not. At any stage, well, you're managing the property on your own, but at any stage, an owner can appoint another agent to manage the property exclusively, but you don't have a tenure. There's no tenure over this. So each day that you manage the property, that was a good day, because tomorrow you might get a notice of transfer and the owner has the right to do so. So I just put in through to here 90 days. That's a fairly decent period if you're going to be doing an advertising campaign, maybe 60 if you wanted to, and then continuing for 120. What you don't want to put in here is 365. You don't want to make it too big. If it's too long, then that's onerous, unenforceable, and wouldn't stack up if you were to ever take it to VCAT. I would suggest that you tick all of these boxes. Now, unless you're only doing the initial letting, then you must tick all these boxes. So this is part of a template, so don't change this. Urgent repairs in Victoria at the moment is $2,500. Now, if you don't put a figure in there, it automatically reverts to $4,000. The thing which is most important is when I'm looking at doing an audit on files, the management authority amount, the $2,500, must then be reflected back into the lease for that particular property. So if that's left blank, it becomes automatically by default $4,000. So therefore, in the special conditions of the rental agreement, it needs to say $4,000. Now, if an owner wants to cross this out and put $1,000, it is still $2,500. It's mandated. There's no option. So it's $2,500 if it's stated. If it's not stated, it's $4,000. Now, it can be more if you wanted to. I wouldn't say that it would be wise, but you can put more. You can't put less inside of there, even if an owner crosses it out. A rental amount, I always calculate this. So, for example, it might be $1,640 or whatever it may be per calendar month. You might advertise a property on a weekly basis to make it easier to advertise, but from a calendar month point of view, that's what we really need to be working on because it makes it easier. There's 12 calendar months, 52 weeks though, the math doesn't add up. So what we need to be doing is calculating on calendar months. The bond in Victoria is 1 month's bond unless it's more than, I think it's $900 or $950. But it needs to be stating in here as 1 month in through to there and the date and the signature of the agent. Now, if you're using electronic documentation, that's easy. You must sign these documents before they go out. There is and you'll look through the Trello, the conditions there. The estate agent must provide a signed copy of an authority to an owner, not provide it, then sign it. So if it's signed afterwards, it doesn't make it valid. Okay, so moving through to there, and both of the, if there's two owners, then they both need to go through and sign it. I'm not going to go through all these special conditions, but my suggestion of these general conditions and definitions, my suggestion is that you must read this. You must read it and understand it because if this document you're actually going to be providing, this is the one document, it's your contract that you have with the client. Okay. Letting fee preparation, this is relatively new. It's only been introduced since the new Tenancy Act. And this would be, it's for arranging the compliance for a property prior to the initial letting. So this is really if you're going to be doing and charging a fee to produce a minimum standards document prior to the initial letting. So that's what that one's for. Letting fee, I don't use the percentages. Some agencies do. They might put 4.4% or something in there. I use 2.2 weeks, and I also put in and I stipulate, even though it's up here, I stipulate in through to here 2.2 weeks letting for each new rental agreement prepared for a new tenancy. So it really does separate from the re-letting fee. Now, there is another provision. If you go back through the regulations in the Trello card, there is another provision that if you are expressing a dollar value or a percentage or a formula, you must express it as a dollar value. Let's just use this. So if the property was $400 per week and we're looking at 2.2 weeks, this would automatically, and it automatically populates, $880, of which GST is $80 on a letting of the $1,600, whatever it may be, per calendar month. And again, I'm using per calendar month. If the letting fee is calculated on a percentage basis, details of the dollar amount must be also provided. Percentage and or formula. If it's calculated here, you must put the dollar value inside of here. Okay, reletting. So reletting to an existing tenancy. This is one that's often missed and not calculated, not offered or not noted. A lot of agents miss out on this one, and it's silly because it's another service that is required. Okay, so this is an existing release to a tenancy that's already there. I use 1.1% of the contract value. So if it's a $20,000 annual value, so it was $400 by 50 weeks. I know it's not going to be that. But if it was $20,000, then this amount would be $220, of which $20 was GST on the $20,000, and that would be per annum inside of there. Again, express it as a percentage, you must be putting it in through. Now, I can put the 1.1% in through to there, but I like to put it into here because it explains what what I've written in through to there rather than of the annual rental, and it's the full contract renewed value, and I've got it in this box, and this box, so it's consistent on the way through. The assignment fee, this is new. Now, the assignment fee is where a tenant renter wants to transfer either the full assignment for themselves or bring somebody in. So it might be you might have 4 parties in there, 2 people are moving out, so 2 couples live together, 2 people are moving out, and then another 2 people are coming through. An assignment. You might have one person that's moving out, another person moving in. An assignment. My suggestion is if there's going to be a complete transfer of tenancies, then you would go for a break lease. But if the tenant wants to be paying the run through as an assignment, and the reason why I suggest a break lease is because the new person, the new renter, is taking over the original conditions and condition report and any of the modifications of the property. And when they vacate, they're going to be held to account for the original condition, even though they weren't there. So that's why I'm suggesting we do a clean break. You would vacate that tenant and then start a new tenancy, break lease. But if the tenant's adamant and you're comfortable with doing an assignment, then it would be charged through to the owner, the rental provider, and then what you're doing is you're recovering this amount back through from the tenant. This needs to be then included into the rental agreement, this amount, $220, because that's what the owner would be required to pay in the event of an assignment. The owner can't say no to the assignment, so what you can't do as an agency is charge the tenant directly through to the agency. The agency has an authority with the owner, not with the tenant. So the $220 gets charged to the owner as part of their fees, and then the tenant is reimbursing, here really important, reimbursing the owner for their out-of-pocket expense. The rental provider may be able to recover this fee from the renter to the extent it represents the rental provider's reasonable expenses incurred by the assignment. So the tenant cannot be charged a fee for creating a lease, keys, rentals, or anything like that. The tenant can't be charged that. But the tenant is required to reimburse the owner for their reasonable expenses that it costs for the assignment. So this needs to be in there, $220, and then you'll put the letting of, again, $1,600 if that's what it is per calendar month. Very, very important that that is in here. So all of the, my suggestion is all of the authorities that were in place before 29th of March in Victoria, my suggestion to all of my clients is that they should be updating all of the authorities to include this fee now and also break lease as well. Management fee, fairly straightforward. Whatever it is in your area, 7%, 6%, 5%, 4%, 2%, doesn't really matter to me, except that it needs to be profitable to you. So don't go in there and just start to look at what your competitors are charging and say, well, okay, therefore I should charge the same. That is a recipe for disaster, also a good way to go broke. So what you need to be doing is firstly have a look and say, what do I need to return per property? Because managing a property is the value of the rent is irrelevant. What does it cost me to manage one property? And if that's my break-even point, I need to make profit. Therefore, that's my minimum. So what you might find is that you need $150 per month, $130 per month, $110 per month, whatever it is, and therefore calculate your percentages from there. So again, I can put it up through to there, but I've put it inside of here because it's an unfurnished property. And often I'll do little things in here which might say, for example, if I do a discount with a rebate, I might be saying the management fee is 7.7%, but because the owner has 3 properties with us, we're rebating them 1%, 2% on all their properties whilst they have the multiple properties, which means that in the event that the owner sells 2 of those properties or transfers them or moves into one, and you've only got 1 left, you can revert this back through to the 7%. So just another way of not negotiating on your fees, but offering the money back as a rebate. Okay, rebate to the owner. The dollar amount needs to be put in through to there, calculate that as a monthly basis. Now, here's one that most agents, when I'm doing a due diligence or an audit, struggle with. So what I see often is a dollar figure inside of here. You can do that, of course, but what you are then doing is you're locking in that dollar figure. That is the only dollar figure that you can charge. If you haven't ticked this box, and it's either this or that, if it's just these, you need to put in an amount. So it might be you might be putting in there, 500 or 1,000 or 2,000, whatever it may be. You might be putting an amount in there, but it's very, very difficult to try and justify that. The advertising, so that covers a lot. It covers boards, photography, internet, brochures, videography, floor plans. It covers all of those things. So you're not really going to be able to then lock yourself into that. So what I see a lot is people will put in there maybe 300 because that's what it costs for the internet. And as a result, that's what they've got in there, and it does not make sense. Attach this, tick this box, and then attach another schedule. If there's not a schedule attached to this, that's irrelevant. If there's not a schedule attached to the management authority, so you've got the 3 documents. You've got the management authority, the fees, which is this one, and then you've also got the level of service. If the 3 documents are not enclosed or combined, it's invalid. And I'll tell you why, because inside of here, you're now proposing that you're charging these fees for the services you'll provide. If you're not providing the services, therefore you can't charge the fees. If you've not ticked this box, you can't charge any additional fees. So you can't charge your monthly fees. You can't charge fee cap. You can't charge your advertising. You can't charge anything else except for what's sitting inside of those figures inside of there. So this is really, really critical that is there, signed by the agent, signed by the rental providers. And if you are attaching this document as an additional document, my suggestion is to get the owners to sign off on that as well. Attach it in through to this document. Moving along. General conditions inside of here. This is the 1.2 that I want to bring to your attention, really important. The agent may assign the authority to another licensed estate agent by giving written notice to the client. If the client does not object in writing to the assignment within 14 days of receipt, the assignee is deemed to hold the authority as the assignee, as the agent naming the authority, discloses on the warranty REIV membership. Okay, so this is an REIV document. What you can't do is assign this through to another agency that's not an REIV member, because effectively this document is saying that the document is for REIV members. So really, really important that you actually have a look at that when you are either looking, buying or selling a rental. So there's a whole range of other little conditions inside of here, but I'm going to move straight through. Really important that you understand these, and I'm going to keep working through. Rebate statement must be provided. So if there's no rebate, then you need to make a note of that. There is no rebate that's actually, and there is a statement here saying that you're not going to get any rebate. So that would be for all services that you would ordinarily think that you're going to be receiving some sort of compensation for. If it's coming back from the owner, then you cannot keep that rebate. Okay, level of service, item 6. So the options are this. You either attach the attach the level of service as a secondary document. So you would have the management authority, the level of service, and the fees. You might have the level of service and fees combined or separate, but you must attach what it is that you're proposing that you will provide to the owner in return for the fees that have been set out. You either use the REIV ones and check the boxes, or you attach this and none of these would be there. Okay, my suggestion is you create your own and attach it, because this one is very generic, whereas if you're going to try and create a point of difference by attaching your own, you actually are creating that point of difference. Okay, so I'm not going to go through all these points, but tick the ones that you are providing. The difficulty with actually this document here is that if you're not ticking it, it just shows up as blank. So it says, for example, provide reports. If you don't tick that, the owner's going to suggest, well, why are you not doing this? Why don't you do this? Why don't you do this? So it actually creates more questions. Hence the reasons why my suggestion is that you actually attach your own document. Okay, and again, the document needs to be signed. In order for this to be a valid and enforceable document, one, it needs to be current. You need to be an REIV member, of course, for the REIV ones. It needs to be signed by the registered owners. My suggestion is you need to have a proof of ownership on file, and it needs to be signed by the agent first. Once you've got this document, then you would save it inside of your master file, which is locked down, because if you don't have a copy of this, the asset value is now diminished. Because if you were ever to look to finance or sell the rent roll, you must be able to provide this document, and which is what goes across. If you're buying a rental roll and you haven't got a copy of this that's valid, then has a zero value because it's not worth anything. Safety-related activities, just wanted to go through to those. Really important because this is where you would note this also on your owner's instruction form. You would have additional documents to be getting authorization for your minimum standards, your disclosure, your rental safety checks, which would be your smoke detectors, gas and electrical safety, and if applicable, swimming pool. And if you've got outer areas, regional areas, or even any areas that are deemed to be bushfire prone areas. I know the city of Whittlesea is very much in that after all the Black Saturday fires. So they all have special requirements that are required from the agents to manage. So you need to get authority and authorization to be managing those properties. Hope this has helped, but of all the documents that you're going to complete as an agent, this is probably, apart from your employment agreement, this is probably the next one that needs to be particularly accurate and filled in correctly. Hopefully this tutorial has helped and explained the way in which to make the management authority valid and assignable. Thanks for that.